Hey, this is Graham Siggins, the current MultiBlind World Record holder, and you're listening to episode 88.
Hi, this is Daniel Goodman.
Dylan Wang from JPerm.
Ian Scheffler.
Shivam Bansal from India.
This is Alex from Z3Cubing.
What's up, guys? This is Jaden McNeil from Australia, and you're listening to the Corner Cutter Podcast.
That's right. Welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast. Podcasting since 2014 and cubing since 2015. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the most consistent cubing podcast dedicated to entertain and educate you with in-depth conversations with cubers from all across the sport. My website is thecornercutterpodcast.com. And thank you so much for taking the time to join me today for episode 88. Today's guest is Graham Siggins, who is the current MultiBlind World Record holder. He got 53 out of 57 cubes in 58 minutes and 31 seconds. This was the second world record he's gotten. Back in May, he got the MultiBlind World Record with 50 out of 52 cubes. And that tied Shivam Bansal in points, but he got a faster time in 56 minutes, 32 seconds. Graham was also this year's MultiBlind World Champion. Before we jump into the interview, if you have any feedback, I would love to hear from you. Please shoot an email in with your thoughts or just saying you love the podcast. Email it in to Josh at thecornercutterpodcast.com. And I look forward to seeing your email and replying because I reply to everybody's email. So I'm super excited to jump into today's discussion with Graham Siggins. Hey Graham, thanks for joining me today on the Corner Cutter Podcast.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Now, what's something interesting about yourself that most people don't know?
This one's a little hard to say because I think one of the more interesting things is that for a long time, like as a teenager, I was super into skateboarding. I don't know how many people know about that. Probably like some of the more diehard fans of mine. But yeah, I guess if you already knew that, then another random fact about me is I've lived in San Francisco for like the last 9 years.
Okay. Now, in the skateboarding, did you how deep did you go, or how extreme did you go with doing it?
Oh, I was pretty serious about it. I started when I was 12, and I would skate. Like when I got really into it, I was skating like at least 3 hours every day, and every day for sure. And it lasted like that often lasted until I was like 18 when I tore my ACL and meniscus and had to have a pretty serious knee surgery. And that took me out for like about 6 to 9 months. But after that, I kept going until college kind of took over my life. I still skate here and there, but I was pretty good at one point. If you could like find videos if you searched my name and skateboarding on YouTube, but yeah, I don't know. I'm more casual now. I was pretty serious about it back in the day though.
No, cool. Yeah, that's definitely something I didn't know about you. So now could you tell us what happened at the recent competition you went to? This was 345 Cube Day, Allen 2019. Can you what were your expectations, goals? What did you have in mind for this competition leading up to it?
Yeah, I was really excited for this competition. This was organized by Jay Park, a delegate who's also father of Jeff Park, former three-blind world record holder, or four-time three-blind world record holder, also former U.S. national champion in three-blind. They graciously invited me to stay at their house for this competition, and I think Jay specifically organized this competition in a way that would incentivize me to make the trip out to Texas. So I did. And luckily, plane tickets were pretty cheap and I could use some of my US Nationals money to go there. But I was really hoping to get something really good in multi-blind because there were three multi-blind attempts. And there's also 4x4 blind and 5x5 blind, 3 rounds of 3x3 blind. So an ideal competition for me. The only thing that would maybe make it better is like having the multi-blind attempts not all on the same day. But yeah, I was going in really hoping to like maybe crush my 5 blind PR, which is currently 332, even though I average like 315 or something. And I totally failed to do that, but at least I didn't triple DNF. 4 blind was okay. I got like a 140 something. Didn't get any PRs either, but I don't practice 4 blind that much. 3 blind was not very good. I guess I was just like choking all over the place. Multi-blind though, I probably average at home. I mean, at that point, I was averaging maybe like 52 points at home when I'm doing like safer attempts. So I was really hoping like with given 3 attempts, I could do at least 52 points, hopefully better. So all in all, I definitely didn't get anywhere near my goals, but I still got a world record. So I can't complain, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The first attempt was a DNF, which if anybody's like following my results and sees on Cube Comps that I DNF'd a multi-blind, they probably want to know what happened there. And I guess it was mostly just like that was at 7 a.m. and that's 2 hours ahead of my normal time zone, so 5 a.m. in San Francisco time. And I hadn't had anything to eat or drink. Like I always drink coffee in the morning, like first thing in the morning. I didn't have a chance to do any of that. I think it might have thrown me off a little bit, but then yeah, I just could not manage to focus during the memorization and the last review. I'm at this point where if when I review a certain pack of cubes for the last time, like I do 3 or 4 reviews depending on what pack of cubes it is, I can tell by the last time I look at a cube whether or not I'll remember it. And I felt like I was basically going to forget like a majority of the cubes the last time I was looking at them. So I ended up like 35 minutes into memo just stopping the attempt and DNFing because it just felt like it was going to be a waste of time. And then second attempt, I was pretty nervous. I got 44 out of 57, and that's also, of course, really bad. And then, last attempt, 53 out of 57. I actually was really not expecting that attempt to go that well. Like, it's not even like pretty good, but like mid attempt, like when I started exec, memo was way. I should probably define my terms. Memo means memorization. Exec is execution. Sorry. I was expecting memorization to be like 2 minutes faster than it was. So I had to like fly through execution as fast as I could. And I ended up having a minute and a half to spare, which is kind of funny. So yeah, but I really felt like I had made a lot of mistakes just because I was going too fast in exec, but I didn't make as many as I thought. So I guess that's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations on your world record.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you think having to solve the cubes so quickly on execution, did that mess you up any? Or did you go back and look at exactly where you messed up?
I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of hard to say because with most attempts, even in ones where I go really safe, I'll probably make at least one execution mistake. And on this attempt, I made 3 execution mistakes. So it probably had a little bit to do with the fact that I was like trying to fly through execution. So like one of the mistakes I like accidentally did a slice move. And the other mistake, I missed one move in the middle of a commutator. And so they were both basically just like from my finger slipping and not really knowing whether or not I did a move. So that definitely has to do. I mean, that can happen like no matter what speed I'm turning at. So that's kind of why it's hard to say, but it probably had something to do with me trying to turn a little faster than I normally do.
Mm-hmm. So what was your reaction when you took the blindfold off?
Well, so right after I took the blindfold off, I think I was the last person who was still finishing their multi-blind attempt. So like pretty much everybody else who was still at the competition was watching me. And it's always weird at this point when that happens, because when I started the attempt, there was nobody watching me. And like, even when I pulled down the blindfold, I didn't see anybody around me. And then when you pull off the blindfold, there's like 30 people surrounding you. But first thing that happened was Jay, the delegate, like patted me on the back and he's like, "Congratulations." So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, then it's world record." And I was like surprised, like I said before, because I was kind of expecting that I made a lot of mistakes. And then, when he pointed out those 4 DNFs, I just kind of laughed, because I was like, only beating it by 1 point is just like kind of annoying at this point. If I'm like very frequently getting over 50 points at home. Like my most recent 10 attempts, minus the most recent one, the 10 attempts before my most recent attempt, I should say, were all over 50 points, and only one of them being under 52 points. So like getting 49 points is annoying, especially given 3 attempts. So when I heard that, I was just like, that's lame.
Yeah, so you definitely have some good expectations for the next competitions.
Yeah, really hoping. I have a competition in a week, really hoping it goes a little better, but it's hard for me to manage my expectations. That's something I'm always trying to figure out. It's difficult.
Yeah. And this comes recently after you breaking, well, it's been a couple months, but you got the world record back in, what month was it exactly?
My first world record, you mean?
Yes.
So that one was in May, I think. It was late May. That was my first ever world record, which is cool. That was 50 out of 52. And that, another weird fact is that was also a competition, just like this one at the more recent world record. This competition had 3 multi-blind attempts all in one day, and I did my first world record on the 3rd attempt of the day, just like I did my second world record on the 3rd attempt of the day. So it seems like something weird about that 3rd attempt of the day. It's totally counterintuitive,
You also got your NAR on your 3rd attempt.
Yeah, that is true.
So we really got to watch from now on your 3rd attempts.
I should always look for those 3 attempt in one day competitions, I guess.
Yes. And I guess you need 2 attempts to warm up. That's cool.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
So how has your improvement been so much over the past months?
I think it's largely just because partly because I practice a lot. Like, I think one reason a lot of people struggle with multi-blind is just because they don't they can't find the patience to do it all the time, because it can be really frustrating. Like, if you have one of those multi-blind attempts where you spend an entire hour and then you just end up getting like a really, really depressing result, like a DNF or something, it can be super discouraging, especially early on when you don't have when you haven't had many exciting results yet, But I guess I've just always been very interested and excited about doing it, so I practice it a lot, and that's a huge thing. Just practicing any event a lot. I think most people would agree that that's probably the most important thing to improve. But aside from that, I think I just have some other good practice techniques. One thing I do a lot, I make sure not to neglect practicing a lot of 3-blind, which I know a lot of top multi-blinders actually almost never practice 3-blind, and I think that's probably a mistake, because you really need to have all your algorithms really, really drilled, and the more mindless you can go through execution, the easier it is to weed out all of the little mistakes that you might make otherwise. And so I'm always doing things in 3-blind sessions, trying to force myself to get successful average of 25s or maybe average of 50s, just trying to force really, really high accuracy. And that kind of helps me find that optimal turning speed and safe turning. Things like that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So how many attempts do you do per day or every week?
I definitely don't normally. I almost never do more than 1 attempt a day. The amount I do per week kind of varies. It usually depends on like if I have a competition coming up, or how busy I am just in general. The last couple weeks I was doing an attempt every day. But these last couple days I kind of stopped because I've been pretty busy. I'm actually like trying to move out of my house in the next couple of days. But yeah, so when I'm really preparing for a competition, it's like one attempt per day. Maybe I'll take like a 1 or 2 day break every week or so. But there are other weeks where I'll just like I won't do an attempt for like a week, maybe 2, and I'll just like do other stuff like practice a lot of 5 blind or maybe 6 blind or 7 blind.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What cubes are you actually using?
For multi-blind, I've been using the Weilong GTS V1 with no magnets, and that's been my main for a pretty long time now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Are they black stickered?
Yeah, they're black stickered. I think that's actually, I don't know if they even have it in white, but they definitely don't have stickerless in the Weilong GTS V1.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there like, I was just thinking, is if you use like different kinds of cubes to remember different parts of the multi-blind attempt, do you think that could ever be a thing, or would that be helpful or just distracting?
This is a question I've heard a lot of people say. Yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to explain, but like certain people would be like, oh, you maybe shouldn't be able to like use cubes that are different sizes, or that like basically that you can just generally feel and know which cube it is. But that kind of thing is really like, it's just another mental note. Like it's no more helpful than like being able to just put your cubes anywhere on the desk. You know how like you need to be able to track like which cube you're on. If you like set 8 cubes on the desk, you need to like start at a certain cube and then go in a certain direction and then end at a certain cube. Like that's the same kind of like physical mental note that you're taking. Just like, it's just another thing you're memorizing, you know? And it's like, there are plenty of things that you're memorizing before the attempt like that, like planning out the way you're going to lay your cubes on the table. I don't think that like having different sized cubes is any like different than that, really. And in the long run, I don't even really think it's helpful. Like the only way I could see it being helpful is a really rare occurrence where like maybe this is only if you set your cubes in a big like messy pile when you're finished solving them. Like maybe you set like you have one cube that's a different size than all the other ones, and you set that one off to the side, and then later on you realize that you like applied the wrong memo to it, and you can like go find it. But even then, you have a really low likelihood that you're going to pick it up in the wrong or in the correct orientation. So I don't really see how it could be very helpful other than that.
Okay. Just, I guess it's something fun to think about.
Yeah.
Now, why did you choose to, or did you choose to excel at multi-blind? This is definitely your strong suit right now.
Yeah. I think the first thing that got me really excited about it was seeing MacLeod do his 41 out of 41. I think I saw that video when I was like first getting into cubing, like before I even learned how to do 3x3 blindfolded. Just seeing that video, that 41 out of 41, I was like, I remember watching his like the sped up memo phase, and he's just like acting it all out, and he looks like a total crazy person. And I was just like laughing at it, but also just like, this guy is a maniac, and he seems like so brilliant, and I want to like figure out how to do that. And after learning 3x3 blindfolded, I think I like shortly tried 2 cubes multi-blind, and it was like fairly easy. But I actually like stopped practicing blind for like a year after I first learned 3 blind, and then I got back into it when I was about to go to my first competition, which had 3 blind. And after that, getting like my first official success, I started practicing multi-blind a little more, and I had a comp with multi-blind, and I did 3 out of 3, and then I like really struggled to do 4 cubes. And at that point, I was like, all right, I should try the method of loci, or other people know it as like the memory palace thing. And first time I tried that at home, I got 4 out of 4, like super easy, way faster than I was trying before. And And then I did 7 out of 7 on my next attempt, and I was just like, it blew my mind. Like trying the memory palace for the first time is so mind blowing. I was just like, it like unlocks your brain. Like people don't even like realize what their brain is capable of. And I love like explaining this to people, because whenever somebody sees MultiBlind for the first time, they're like, that's not humanly possible. Like, you have to be cheating. This can't be real. And I'm like, you like, none of you realize that like any of our brains can do this. And it's just like really cool. That's like for sure the thing that makes me most excited about it, and probably what got me practicing it more in the first place.
Yeah. One kind of off topic question. I'm looking at your results right now, and 53 out of 57 is an odd number of cubes attempted, and that's the first one you've done for a couple of years.
Oh yeah.
How are you, like, you can do either, or why did you decide to do 57 cubes?
Yeah, I think for a while it seemed like even an odd number of cubes kind of mattered, but at the point I'm at, it like doesn't really matter. It's just like 57 at that time. I was doing, that's basically the number that I was like practicing at home, that I could like very confidently safety and do sub hour. I could have probably fit 58. I mean, given the time that I ended up getting on that world record, I guess, yeah, I could have fit 58, and it wouldn't have really changed anything. It's just that I would have had like one more cube that I reviewed like the same amount as the others at the end. But yeah, at the point I'm at, I don't really see much difference in trying even an odd number of cubes, I guess, other than like I can beat the world record by 1 point rather than like beating it by time or something, you know?
What has been your best attempt at home, and then the most cubes you've ever attempted?
Yeah, my current PB, just like as far as like with WCA rules go, is 61 out of 64 in 57 minutes and 10 seconds. That was a pretty, that was kind of a fluky attempt, I think, just as far as the speed goes. I had 18 exec per cube on that, and like that's pretty crazy for me when I'm like not doing a safety. I just somehow like made the memo stick really well, but that's also my fifth 58 pointer. I think at the time it was my fourth 58 pointer. I've gotten one since then, but yeah, it's weird. My PB is 58 points, and I've also done 58 points four other times, so it seems like a weird barrier for me for some reason.
And then your biggest attempt ever?
Oh yeah, I've done 100 cube attempts twice. Are you talking about like the most I've tried to sub hour, or just like period ever tried to memorize? You know,
both.
Okay, most I've ever sub houred is 65. But I guess with that 64, the 61 out of 64 that I mentioned before, since I did that in 57 minutes, I could actually like, I think with that same time per cube, I could sub hour 50 or 67. But I just haven't tried it yet. But yeah, I've tried 100 cubes twice. I have a video on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. I was pretty proud. I did this like a month and a half ago or something, but I did 95 out of 100 in 2 hours and 7 minutes. Where my first attempt at 100 was 87 out of 100 in like 2 hours and 59 minutes. So I figured out some like way better review system for doing really large numbers like that, and it worked way better the second time.
No good. And that's might be where it's headed. You think so?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
So you're super into cubing right now, have the world record. How did you get introduced to the Rubik's Cube?
Yeah, I guess it's probably like pretty similar to most people's stories, except that I got into it when I was 22 years old. That's pretty unusual. I was kind of like heavily into my my undergrad major. I was majoring in physics, and I was kind of just at school all day, every day at the physics club room and like in the computer lab. And I had this friend who I was like, just like spending all day with, because we were always in the same classes and doing homework together. And I remember seeing him playing with the Rubik's Cube on in the computer lab and just like timing himself. I think he was averaging like 20 to 25 seconds or something. But first time I saw him doing that, I was like immediately like, that's so cool. I want to learn how to do that. And his reaction to me saying that to him was like, it was like kind of annoyed and like skeptical at the same time. He's like, "Oh, you want me to teach you? Like, you better be serious about it." Because I think he's had like a lot of people who like say the similar thing, but then like when they're like an hour into learning it, they just give up and waste his time, you know. But I ended up learning it from him and took like a couple days to be on my own, and then he was like not very serious about it. I ended up like surpassing him like a month later or something like that, you know.
Wow.
It was pretty funny. And now he's always like, he's commenting on my YouTube videos occasionally, and I think he tells his friends that like he's the reason I have a world record and stuff like that, you know.
That's
which I
pretty
totally
good.
Shout out to Roy Safadia. He's at a PhD program at UC Santa Cruz now, doing big things.
Oh, wow. Okay, when did you actually figure out cubing was an actual sport, I guess you could call it?
I have like really vague memories of like seeing videos when I was in high school, and I definitely remember having like a reaction to it, like, what is that? Like, it seems so bizarre. I was like, why would anybody do this? That was just my first reaction in high school. I don't think I really thought about it much. I just saw the video and I was like, that's so weird that people like go to competitions for this. But I definitely didn't realize how big it was until getting into it myself and like starting to like actually look at videos online a lot more often, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing how big the community actually is, and once you actually find out about it.
Yeah, just
how
constantly growing
cool
too.
it is. And that's something I try to share with people when I talk to them about the Rubik's Cube, and I tell them how like big a community there is.
Yeah,
and it's
really
not
surprising.
Just me who can solve the cube.
Yeah, definitely.
So if someone wants to start getting into multi-blind, what do you recommend for them?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say, just to not make the same mistakes I did and save yourself some time, is learn how to use the memory palace like immediately, or just as early as you want, because it's super simple, and just like you can watch a video just about what the memory palace is and how to use it, and you can immediately start using it like right after you finish watching that. Like, it's very simple, super easy to learn, and it's incredibly powerful. It makes multi-blind so much easier. So definitely start with that. But after that, I guess it's kind of hard to like determine what people would consider like a beginner level, you know. But I guess one important thing I would say when you're getting up to like 7 or more cubes is start trying to figure out memo and review systems that are like logical. Like I definitely wasted a lot of time all the way up to even like 20 cubes where I was like doing things that didn't really make sense in my review system, like just kind of reviewing stuff. Like I had no set review system, and I was just reviewing stuff when I felt like I needed to. And that can be really bad because you don't really know your memory so well at that beginner level. And so you could be just like totally favoring some cubes over others. It's a lot better to, I learned this from Shawn Agrawal. It's like a former 3-blind world record holder. He taught me so much stuff early on when I was getting into multi-blind. I think what she learned from Mark Boyanowski, but so shout out to both of them. But you gotta just don't favor certain cubes over others. So like make sure you're spending the same amount of time reviewing each cube, as long as you're not doing something like solving those cubes first. So like, for example, I'll in my big attempts, I'll do let's say I'm doing 48 cubes. I review the first 32 cubes 3 times, and then but I memorize the first 32 first, and then I go on to the next 16, and I'll review those 2 times, and then I'll solve that second amount of 16 first, because they're kind of like in my shorter term memory. And so that's kind of like a way you can be more efficient. and also like not favor anything like too dramatically. And then I solved the 1 through 32 after that second 16 because I had reviewed the 1 through 32 significantly more, and they'll stick in your memory easier. But that's just a way you can like kind of cut out some time. Things like that. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize you can really like experiment with making your review system more efficient and more logical, things like that. Yeah.
Thank you for those tips. Is there, going back to the Memory Palace, is there a certain video you recommend?
Yeah. So the video I used was from Noah Arthurs. He has a video on how you can specifically use the Memory Palace for multi-blind, but I actually think so. My friend Timothy Go, he has a YouTube channel, and the name for that is just 4Blind. I think many people know about it now. It's fairly popular, at least if you're into blind stuff. He has a lot of other tutorials, but he has one that's specifically about the Memory Palace thing, and I think it's really good. It has a lot of cool visuals, whereas like Noah's is kind of just like talking. Yeah, so just look up 4Blind, like 4BLD, and then Method of Loci or Memory Palace, and you'll find it. That's a good video.
Okay, I'll have those linked in the show notes as well.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
What has been the hardest aspect to overcome in cubing generally, and if you want to dive into multi-blind stuff, feel free to share that as well. Yeah,
I think it has to be like 100% the trying to overcome comp nerves, which is something in listening to your podcast. It's funny. I like all the people you interview basically say the same thing. It's really a difficult thing to figure out. And it seems like 9 of 10 of my competitions, I basically like overall have like pretty disappointing results as far as like comparing to what my goals were going in, you know, but I'll have that like one comp once in a blue moon where things go pretty well and I'm like really happy. And then I'm like, yeah, I figured out how to compete finally, and I no longer get nervous, and I'm just like, there, I did it. But then lo and behold, the next comp I go to, I totally choke again, and it's so hard to figure out. Like it's such a weird thing trying to overcome your own brain. And I think it's gotten like, I really felt like I was getting better at competing in multi-blind officially, and then like I really started to like become known as like one of the best multi-blinders. And then when I got a world record, people just started like watching my attempts in competitions more and more. And when I have people staring at me like during memo, it can be so distracting. Like I don't want to like discourage people from watching me, but like I don't know, maybe if you're ever at a competition and you want to watch my attempt, just like do it over my shoulder or something. Because man, when I see people just like staring at me in my peripheral vision, it's so, I just like think about it, I'm like, why are you watching me? Like, this is so boring. This is the boring part. Why are you watching this? And then like all of these thoughts that are popping in my head are totally distracting. And then I like forget to review something as well as I should, you know, and it's just like a snowball effect of badness.
I can totally see that. Yeah, you need to get the word out more for that so you can do even better.
Yeah, hopefully.
Do you have like a certain routine you do before your multi-blind attempts or anything to help you focus besides letting people know not to look at you?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I guess there are like a lot of things I get really picky about nowadays. Like one thing that's helpful for trying to avoid that issue with having a lot of people like visible to me during my memo is like if I can get the organizers to let me have my table pushed against a wall, then that's like a lot less likely that I'll have people like standing in front of me, you know. But also I've been getting really picky about just like exactly how I treat my body around an attempt, you know, like how much sleep I get and how stressed out I am and how much water I've been drinking and exercise and like the foods I've been eating. So I guess like part of my ritual is just like eating kind of lean foods. Like I found that my brain kind of works better when I'm like, not like when I'm starving myself, but when I haven't like eaten too much. Like usually if I do an attempt right after eating a meal, it makes me like a little more tired and I just don't focus quite as well. when I eat stuff, just like some nuts and maybe like a little bit of like fruit or like coffee, that kind of thing usually helps me a lot. And that's, I guess, part of my routine. But also I try to like kind of meditate in a sense, like meditate on my memory palace that I'm about to use. And if I just like walk through my memory palace completely and just try to really like visualize everything about each room beforehand, I think that has a huge effect on how well I can make memos stick during the actual attempt.
Wow, very interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What is your interest in other events? Which ones are your favorite? And
oh yeah,
what else? Yeah.
I mean, I like all the blindfolded events. I guess in level of, or in order of how much I practice the blindfolded events, it would go. I think I'd probably put the same amount of time into 3-blind and multi-blind, but 3-blind practice also kind of applies to multi-blind. So in a sense, I practice multi-blind more, but it'd probably go like multi-blind, 3-blind, then 5-blind, and then 4-blind. But I also really like doing like sighted 5x5. That's for some reason just become one of my favorite events. I average probably like 115 on it now, and I have a 113 official average. That event is just like kind of the one I do when I don't want to like have to be like silently doing an event, because you have to do that with blind events usually. I'll like to listen to podcasts and stuff and just do a bunch of 5x5 solves.
Nice. Oh, so you listen to podcasts? What?
Yeah. I'm a big podcast guy.
Nice. Me too. What is your favorite kinds of podcasts to listen to?
I like a lot of comedy podcasts. There's ones like there's one called Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and his wife Christina Pashitsky. Just two comedians. It's really funny. It's a little, maybe like a little adult. So if you're under the age 16 or something, maybe don't check that one out. But I also listen to like a lot of political podcasts, but I won't get controversial here. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. Glad to hear you're another podcast fan, because I definitely am, and I try to share podcasting with everybody, or lots of people that I talk to. So
yeah, it seems to be blowing up lately. It's becoming really, really big thing.
Yes, you're right. Everybody seems like they want to start a podcast or is starting a podcast. So yeah, that's
definitely
great for the podcasting community. It's also becoming much easier to listen to podcasts as well.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Spotify jumping on into podcasting and lots of other companies. What's your favorite app to listen in?
I guess I mostly just watch podcasts that are also on YouTube. I don't know, it can be more interesting when you have video. Like the Your Mom's House podcast I mentioned is on YouTube. I also watch, the one I didn't mention is the H3 podcast with Ethan and Hila Klein. That's a really popular one, and I watch it time to time. It's pretty funny.
Nice. Okay. Looking over your WCA profile, if you didn't know, I'm super into Pyramix. My main event's Pyramix, and I just love it. I always tend to look at people's Pyramix results when I'm looking at their WCA profile. I noticed you have a 7.36 average, and then your PB single is 2.48. Could you tell us that story?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't practice Pyramix ever. I probably average like 9 seconds at best, maybe like barely sub 9 if I practice for like a few days or something. That competition, that specific round had 2 ridiculous scrambles. I think that 2-second solve was like my overall PB, and probably still is. I don't really keep track of Pyramix much, but it's I think that was like the optimal, or like the least amount of moves a legal Pyramix solution can be, which I think is 7.
Oh wow.
And it was basically, I think it had 1 tip, and it was like I just did like a layer by layer solution, because that's how I'm like, I don't care about Pyramix, so that's how I solve it. And I last layer skip, and it was 7 moves overall. It was just like ridiculous. And then like I got I think also a 4-second solve in the same average with another ridiculous easy scramble.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was hilarious, and I just like went and told all my friends at the competition because I was just flabbergasted. Like, I definitely don't deserve a 2-second Pyramix single. I think I was like beating Stanley Chappell's Pyramix single, and we're always like sharing results on Facebook and Messenger with each other, and he just was like, I think, angry at me for a while. Like not seriously angry, just like we both thought it was hilarious and that I would have a better Pyramix single than him when he averages like 3 seconds or something.
Yeah. So great story, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any other stories that you thought of that you would want to share?
Yeah. I thought of one of the most hilarious stories from my cubing career is so I'm pretty good friends with Shawn Agrawal. At least like when he was cubing a lot, we were pretty good friends. He's kind of doing his own thing with poker now, but he and well, how do I start the story? I guess so. There's like the whole Texas blind crew, which is like Josh Weimer and Timothy Go and Angelo Zhang and Jeff Park. They organized this competition that had like a bunch of blind events, and I think like Ishan and Neil Gore, who both live in the Bay Area or at least used to, and Max Hilliard and also Jake Klassen, they all went to this competition in Texas for this like huge blind competition. I didn't make it out because it was like pretty expensive and just like inconvenient timing for me. But this was back, I think, probably like 2 years ago when I was really starting to get into multi-blind and get like kind of good at it. I think I was doing like, I think probably my PB, it might have been when my PB was like 32 points or maybe like near 40, something like that. But I was really aspiring to get the North American record, and it was like all I cared about for a long time, because it was at 32 points at the time. And Ishan and all those guys, they thought it would be really funny if they bamboozled me, quote unquote bamboozled me, by like completely staging Ishan getting a 33 out of 37 multi-blind official NAR. And Shawn has always had this thing where he likes to try to bamboozle people, or like say that he's going to practice an event secretly for like some months without telling anybody, and then go get like some crazy official result just to like surprise everybody. And so he's always been saying he was going to do that with multi-blind, and we never really knew if he was doing it or not. And then he went to this competition, and they completely staged this 37 or 35 out of 37 result, and it looked totally real. They like combined everybody's cubes so that they would have 37, and then staged it, like sent the video to this group chat that we were all in together on Facebook Messenger. And I was like devastated, honestly, just like thinking like I've been practicing multi-blind for so long, and Shawn just like effortlessly beat NAR. And it's like I felt just like, oh, all my dreams are going down the drain right now. And like they even held this bamboozle going for like an entire 24 hours after that, and like they were trying to make sure that like everybody at this competition wouldn't blow it to me. And eventually they just like they told me the truth, and they made this huge post about it, I think in the blind support group on Facebook. So if you're part of that, I think you can find that post. If it's not in there, it's in the Cubix Friends Facebook group. But yeah, Ishan made this whole post like with all the videos and the background planning that they did. It was this whole crazy, hilarious thing. Looking back.
Wow. That's quite the setup. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, great story.
Yeah, thanks.
One other thing before we start wrapping up the interview, I can imagine, and I want your honest opinion here. I can imagine when you sign up for competitions, the staff and scramblers might get a little irritated at you. Do you think that happens at all?
Yeah, probably. I feel bad about it, honestly, at this point. Because, I mean, it's not that bad to scramble 60 cubes or whatever. I always like, or not always, but at home, I'll time myself to see how fast I can scramble 60 cubes. And I never give myself duplicate scrambles or anything. I can do it pretty accurately. But it takes me like 8 or 9 minutes usually, which isn't that bad. If you just like plan accordingly for like being able to scramble cubes, like it's not terrible. But yeah, I know it annoys people, so I kind of feel bad sometimes. But also, like, usually when people organize multi-blind, or a lot of the time, they're excited to see like people do things that are seem like outlandish, like doing 60 cubes, you know. So I don't know. I feel kind of bad for them, but also they get to like see something they don't normally see. So I'm kind of repaying them a little bit for the struggle if I do well, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure they're happy to have you at the competition. Besides that, to have,
Hope so. Yeah.
yeah. But I always love when fast people, especially possibly world record holders, when they come to my comps and break records there. So
yeah, definitely. I always like seeing the events I don't know much about and seeing insane stuff happen, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Graham, what's something you've changed your mind about recently?
Yeah, this is a hard one to think about, but I guess there's a couple things. One thing, so like at the beginning of this year, I was kind of trying to plan for like long-term multi-blind goals, and I was thinking just like using very specific splits of like how I can memorize and review packs of 8 cubes. I was thinking if I wanted to get up to like 70 or 73-ish cubes, something like that, by sometime in 2020, I would have to like cut out an entire review of everything and like get used to that, basically. But actually lately I've started realizing that I probably don't even need to do that. I think with my normal memo and review system, I could get to 70 plus cubes just by like pure practice and like making all my like little individual splits a little bit faster, because it all kind of adds up when you're doing that many cubes. So yeah, I don't think I'd need to change my review system, at least to maybe get up to like 75. Maybe if I'm going to like 80 plus, which could happen maybe within the next few years if I still stay into it, maybe at that point I'd need to change it. But that's one thing I changed my mind about. One other thing is for the longest time I thought, this is kind of like a funny, just stupid thing that I used to think that earplugs just didn't fit in my ears. Like whenever I used earplugs, they just like barely did anything, barely blocked out any noise. And I'm in this group chat with like a bunch of people who are really serious about multi-blind, and that includes Mascow, former world record holder Mascow. Even though he doesn't practice anymore, he's in that group, and he's a really funny person to interact with online. But I was mentioning to that group chat, like, I never use earplugs just because I've always believed they don't fit in my ear. And Mascow's like, have you tried like pinching it and forcing it like to be smaller so that it can fit in your ear? And I was like, I think so. And then I like really tried to do that, and it fully went in my ear, and I was like mind blown, like, wait, earplugs work so much better than I thought. And now I have like now I always use earplugs under my noise blocking earmuffs in my multi-blind attempts, and it has like drastically improved how much noise affects me during multi-blind attempts. So shout out to Mascow for that one.
Oh wow, that's a really interesting fact. I actually thought the same thing, or still think the same thing. Maybe I gotta try.
Yeah,
it
feels like you're maybe like damaging your eardrum or something, but I think it's just that you gotta like squeeze it and then put it in your ear, and it kind of just slides all the way in, and then it will expand. And when it expands, you can like hear your hearing getting worse, you know? So it's like, you know, it's working.
Okay. Yeah. So don't force it against your eardrum, but you want to make sure it's in there. Okay.
Just make sure it's small enough so it can just kind of like slide all the way in.
Is there a certain brand of earplugs that you like best?
I've just been using disposable ones that I can, like, I have a CVS down the street from my house. They have like jars of disposable earplugs, and I buy one of those. They've got like 70 earplugs in them or something.
Okay. Maybe
I'm not sure the brand. Might be like generic CVS brand or something. Okay.
Maybe you should look into getting a sponsor.
Yeah, 3M. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Graham, where can people find you on the internet?
I guess the best place is my YouTube channel. Just my name, Graham Siggins. You can find my YouTube channel. Other than that, I don't have much else. I guess like my Instagram, but I don't post on Instagram very much. Maybe just like the occasional thing that is like under 1 minute that I can put on my Instagram account. But with the events I'm into, not many things are under 1 minute. So yeah, I don't post that much there. But if you want to follow me, go ahead. And my Instagram is Sigstagram, which is SIGGSTAGRAHAM.
Okay, and I'll have that linked in the show notes as well. Graham,
Cool.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the Corner Cutter podcast today. I really enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Wow, that was so cool, learning about MultiBlind from the actual world record holder. That was a fun conversation. Again, if you have any feedback, I would love to hear from you. Email me, josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com, or you could even send in an audio message. Go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback, and you can record a message right there. As promised, this was the episode on the 1st of the month. I'm guaranteeing you guys on the 1st of every month, I'll have a new episode for you, and then hopefully one in between. So that's at least one, maybe 2 episodes per month. So I hope you enjoyed it. Big thanks to the Corner Cutter Podcast's patrons, Daxton and Reggie, who support the show on Patreon every month. If you want to become an awesome supporter, go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/support. So that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and come back next time for episode 89 of the Corner Cutter Podcast. Next episode is with Lucas Guerin, who's the head of the WRC. The interview is recorded and will be out in the next couple of weeks, so I know you guys will enjoy that. Also, thanks for putting up with the issues with my RSS feed. That was a nightmare, but I finally got it all sorted out. If there's still a platform that you used to listen on that isn't updated with all of the episodes, or there's something funny with the RSS feed there, please let me know and I will get that sorted out. It happened because I moved to a different host and then I had to move back because they wouldn't give me a refund. That was a huge pain, but I got everything sorted out now, so everything should be fine. Shout out to Matthew, who let me know stuff was out of sorts on Spotify, and he sent in some kind words as well. So thanks, Matthew, for the notice.